Hello everyone. Lately I have been watching a number of great films on Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to just give you some recommendations, show you the kind of things that I've really been enjoying on physical media. I have a rather large stack beside me here, so I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. But if you have any further questions about these discs or these films, then please feel free to drop them in a comment below. So let's kick things off with a 4K release that I was very excited for. It's The Last Emperor, the film from Bernardo Bertolucci, a very famous film. The year it was released, it won tons of awards at the Oscars. And this is an epic story showing the life of the last emperor as he goes from being a young boy to an older man. There are so many things to love about this film. The performances, the cinematography from Vittorio Storaro, the music from the late Ryuichi Sakamoto and David Byrne. There's just so much to love about this film, and it's beautifully presented on the 4K Blu-ray. Unfortunately, it's only the theatrical cut of the movie that's on 4K. The extended cut is not on 4K, it's just presented on Blu-ray here. Speaking of David Byrne, I picked up David Byrne's American Utopia on Blu-ray. This is from Dogwolf Films, and they usually release documentaries. This is a filmed version of the musical stage production, concert, whatever you want to call it. It was directed by Spike Lee, and you definitely see his approach to filmmaking presented in the filmed version of this concert. It certainly never reaches the heights of Stop Making Sense, but still, it's very enjoyable. The music is just incredible. So many classics in here. So yeah, if you're a fan of David Byrne, Talking Heads, Spike Lee, this is one to check out. Going back to 4K releases, I watched The War of the Worlds, the classic science fiction movie, presented on 4K from Imprint Films in Australia. This is the steelbook version, which you get in this lenticular hard case with a booklet. It's very nice indeed. And I say it's an imprint release. What you actually get inside here is the older imprint Blu-ray, and you get the Paramount 4K disc. So it's actually two different discs kind of smushed together in one release. But I think the film looks great on the 4K disc, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. A film that I loved revisiting on the 4K disc was Damien Chazelle's Babylon. This is one of my favourite films from last year, perhaps my favourite film, and it just gets better on a rewatch. The presentation on the disc was great, didn't see any problems with it, and just the film itself, I know many people say they don't like it, they find tons of problems with it. I just really enjoy this one, and it just really works on so many levels for me. I can see why Hollywood hate this movie, because it is directly pointing a finger and taking shots at their history and perhaps their present as well. Going back to Arrow Video, I watched The Sacred Spirit. This is a very mysterious film that is about UFOs, Egyptology, missing children. It's a very strange film. I'm going to find it very hard to describe, but if you like UFO stories, but also harsh, realist stories, this has it all packed in. I went into this film thinking I was going to get one thing, and by the end I got something completely different. But I had such a great time with this, one that I'm going to revisit a lot. I also watched Your Name, the film from Makoto Shinkai, a film that I'd wanted to watch for years, just never got around to it, and I'd seen so many glowing reviews of this on Letterboxd that I really should have watched it much sooner. I did have a great time with it. I don't think it hit me as much as it seems to have hit some people, but it was a lot of fun to watch. It was very emotional, and the animation style was absolutely brilliant. If you don't know the story, it's following this young man who lives in the center of Tokyo and this young woman who lives in the countryside, and they start waking up having switched bodies, and it's very confusing for them, and they want to try and find out what's happening and why. I'm sure any anime fans have already seen this, and I wanted to watch it now because I know Shinkai has a new film out, which I'm hopefully going to see very soon. The other day I rewatched one of my favourite French movies, It's La Ronde from Max Ophuls, the master storyteller, with the brilliant Anton Walbrook here as well, playing the central character who's telling these interweaving stories. It's looking at different relationships as one partner leaves a relationship and goes into another, and how these relationships are all linked one by one. It's a fascinating film, beautifully played out. And I have to imagine that sometime in the future, Criterion will upgrade their older DVD to a Blu-ray copy of this. Because my major gripe with this edition from the UK is that the subtitling is not good at all. There's so many mistakes in the subtitling and it's not formatted correctly. So that's a major gripe with this release. But it's the only way I can watch it now in HD. Yet another Arrow release, it's Red Angel from director Yasuzo Masumura. This is a harrowing war film that follows this nurse who is treating soldiers who are wounded on the battlefield, and she has a very rough time in this position. She is treated horribly, she sees so many horrible things, and it really is looking at, the horrors of war. For me, this is one of the most shocking war films that I've ever seen, up there with Come and See in just how bad it left me feeling when it had ended. So definitely not a cheery film, but one that I think is expertly made, and I implore more people to seek this one out. I also recently watched Royal Warriors. This is the second film in the Line of Duty series, released on this great Blu-ray from Eureka Entertainment. And I've had such a great time watching this series of films. Michelle Yeoh is brilliant in this. The choreography, the action is just top notch. And there's a really suspenseful, thrilling sequence that's set on a plane in this movie, which I'm going to be revisiting again and again because it's just brilliant storytelling. A film that was a recent revelation for me was this one, Moonlighting. This is from director Jerzy Skolimowski. It stars Jeremy Irons. He plays this Polish construction worker who is sent from Poland to London to work on his boss's house with the aim of renovating the house, making it look nice for his boss. But of course, he's being paid a fraction of what local labourers would be paid for the same job. He is the only one that speaks English in his group, so he is the de facto leader. And there's a lot of conflict that arises when, without spoiling it, they kind of lose contact with back home in Poland, and things start to unravel from there. It's a very Dostoevskian story, like Crime and Punishment is a huge inspiration on this movie, and just shot so well. I watched The Boys in the Band. This is the Second Sight Films Blu-ray of the film from William Friedkin, who we know from The Exorcist, Sorcerer, French Connection, etc. This is an adaptation of the Broadway play, and it follows this group of gay men who are preparing for this party, and when they start drinking and things like that, tensions start to fly and things start to unravel very quickly. I think it's a great film. At times it might risk being slightly too stagey in terms of direction, but it is based on a play and it isn't too far removed from that play. There's a sad story behind this film as well, because many of the actors in this film who give brilliant performances would go on to die from AIDS in later years. So, sad story, but brilliant performances in a great film from William Friedkin. Another music film, this one is Jazz on a Summer's Day. This is known as being one of the greatest films about jazz, and I have to agree. It's essentially a series of filmed concerts from the Newport Jazz Festival, featuring so many great artists, Louis Armstrong, Thelonious Monk, and the music is brilliant, but the way that it's shot, the way that it captures both the artists and the audience, both enjoying the music and feeling the music, is just so well done. And there's a reason that this is considered so highly when it comes to musical films. And I even have another music film, because I've clearly really been enjoying music films lately. It's The Bee Gees, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? This is a documentary looking at the life and the career of the Bee Gees. It's a very well-made documentary. I think even if you're not a fan of the Bee Gees, I think it's one worth checking out. And there's so many emotional moments in this documentary that have just left it, lingering with me, and one that I'm going to revisit a lot. Yesterday, I rewatched one of my favourite films of John Huston. He's one of the greatest American filmmakers of the last 100 years. He made so many films, but his later period is where he started to get a bit more experimental, experiment with form and storytelling. And this one I have a real soft spot for. It's Wise Blood, starring Brad Dourif in the central role. Harry Dean Stanton is in here as well. It follows this young man who is kind of struggling for identity in life. He doesn't know what to do with himself. But something he knows is that he is strongly against religion in the Christian sense. He believes that religion does not have to have a Christ figure. And it's with this where he really has very strong opinions. And this creates conflict between him and some of the other characters in the film, namely the character played by Harry Dean Stanton, who himself is a preacher trying to spread the word of Christianity and Jesus. Underneath the storytelling here, I think the film is expressing many ideas around how we interact with religion in a modern sense, particularly in America, which clearly I don't have a direct experience of, as I'm not an American. This Blu-ray is out of print, and I'm really hoping that a Blu-ray comes back in print so more people can check this film out. I've got to imagine that Criterion will want to upgrade their older DVD to Blu-ray at some point, because interestingly, on this screen-bound Blu-ray, it even has the Janus Films logo at the start of the film. So clearly this is just taking the old master from the Criterion DVD and putting it on a Blu-ray. But it does look fine on this disc, but I'd love to see a new upgraded Blu-ray sometime soon. And then I've got quite a peculiar film, a musical film from Germany, detailing all the different characters that you would meet on the Berlin Underground line. The film is Lenny Einst, and this is a very fun film, very out there film, and I had a great time with this. This is certainly a film that I don't think I would have come across if it weren't for Studio Canal's Cult Classics line, so I'm very happy that this has got a Blu-ray release, a great fun film. If you're a fan of musicals and just colourful films, have a go at this one. If you want to stick around on the channel, then just click the video that's presented on screen right now, where you can get more recommendations from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.